Okay, musculoskeletal system, pretty straightforward. Again, we haven't been learning super details when it comes to these systems, and that's fine. It's not a requirement for this course. We don't need to have all this information in super fine detail. We just want to go over some of the main organs, some of those organs that that you might have to discuss. Let's say you injure yourself playing some sport, and you have to have maybe a knee looked at, something like that, and the doctor is going to start talking to you about maybe how that knee has been damaged. They might use terms like tendons and cartilage and muscles and all that type of stuff, and it's important for us to know those basics so that we can understand what they're talking about. Yep. Is it really?
Yeah.
Everybody's filling it in at the same time?
We can't edit it.
No, you can't type in it?
No.
Are people typing into it and there's words coming in?
No.
No, it's one that you can't type into. Can you open it? Oh, you can't type into it. You can open it and you can write on it. Okay, let me do a little fix here for a minute. Let me do a little fix. I'm going to add a second entry right now. That's going to give, so I didn't click on give to all. I'm going to fix that. And then if you don't need it, you don't have to open this last entry here. If you need it, you can open it up. So let me just do a quick little fix there. So that was an error in the assignment. So I'm going to go add, create assignment. Okay, musculoskeletal nervous system, not diagrams, PowerPoint. Make a copy for each. Assign. Okay, so those of you who like to type it in there, I am currently assigning it. So it just says muscle doc. Each student gets a copy. So those of you who want to type into the document, that is now out there. It's just a new docket. Like I said, it says muscle doc, etc., etc. Okay. Are you getting that in there now? Okay. So if you want to type on it, it's now in there as muscle doc. If you're writing on it, you can actually create your own. You're already rolling. Beautiful. Okay. So just taking a look at this kind of general picture, and we're going to be labeling this in a moment on our labels, but I really don't even want it in this much detail. Here we've got a typical knee with the various parts of the musculoskeletal system, and I actually don't even want this much detail. Femur and tibia, if we're talking in less specific terms, what are those categorized as? What is the femur and the tibia easier known as? They're bones, all right? So when we go to label our pictures, I don't need you to know which one is the femur and which one is the tibia. Obviously, the femur is the big one up above the knee. The tibia is below the knee. But we just need to know them as being bones, all right? Other important parts, and they don't even have it labeled, way up here, this meaty part, what is that top part should be labeled as? If we're talking about the important parts of the musculoskeletal system, what is that up there considered? Again, we're just looking for simple names of the things. What's that? That's the muscle, right? That's the thing that does the moving. It's the muscle tissue that has the cell. Again, notice here, we've got this long stretch, and it's called here the patellar tendon. I'm not even looking, again, for that much specifics. In this case, I'm just looking for the fact that it is a tendon. What is the patella? What is the patella better known as? Yep, that's your kneecap, all right? So a tendon runs over the top of it, keeps everything kind of in position, but notice what the tendon's job here is. The tendon is connecting that muscle ultimately to that bone. And that's what we're going to find as we go through our definitions. Tendons connect muscles to bones, all right? So you got a muscle that's able to move, that's able to do something. It needs to be attached to a bone in some way, and it is a tendon that does that, all right? I'm actually missing another important term here, and actually I should put it in here. I'll add it in here. I'm going to put it in here in black. This guy right here. What do you think this thing is? Yeah, we see here that this is cartilage. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. But notice this. This is a connective kind of device that connects this top bone, the femur, to the tibia. What do you think we call it that connects one bone to a different bone? It has a different name. Yep. It's a ligament, all right? So if you've got ligament damage, it means the connection between the adjacent bones to kind of keep things working together has been damaged, has been broken, etc., etc., and those bones won't move freely like they're supposed to because they don't have that attachment anymore. So bone to bone is a ligament. Muscle to bone is a tendon. In between here, we've got this cartilage, and this one is a specific one again, articular, I don't even know what it is, cartilage. And cartilage is that stuff that exists between the bones so that those bones can move freely and slide nicely past each other as they're moving. So cartilage is kind of a structure that exists between bones that allows them to move past each other. Those are the main parts of the muscular system that I'm concerned about. So again, if you're filling in your blanks, and again, I'm not sure what your sheet looks like, but again, in lieu of having to write all of these things down, the musculoskeletal system is made up of the bones of the body and the muscles that make them move, all right? The skeleton is made up of various types of connective tissue. Bones, we saw that. They're obviously the main structure. Ligaments, tendons, and cartilage, okay? So those will be the main kind of organs that we want to gain some information about in this particular lesson. So bone. Bone is hard, dense, consisting of a matrix of minerals, calcium and phosphorus, and collagen fibers. When they say a matrix, all right, enjoying science fiction movies, I think of the movie Matrix. That has nothing to do with this type of a matrix. A matrix, in this case, is really just kind of a structure that the minerals can stick to. You can almost think of it like scaffolding. Does everybody know what scaffolding is? You've seen people, they're working on a building, they put up this structure. Now, the difference between, in this case, the matrix and a scaffolding is you don't hang things on the scaffolding. Workers go up them, they do their thing, they come back down. In this case, the collagen fibers make the scaffolding, and then the calcium attaches itself to that kind of structure, and that's what then builds up the bone and makes it strong, right? So it's like scaffolding that you then put stuff on in order to make it strong, if that kind of makes sense. So scaffolding, you don't do that. You put some boards on it, that type of thing. But in the end, you don't build around the scaffolding, right? You don't put bricks on the scaffolding, right? In this case, you have that matrix, that structure that goes on. All right. Canals inside the bone contain nerves and blood vessels. All right. So obviously, if you break a bone, you can feel it. Only a small percentage of the bone is actually living tissue. Parts of our skeleton are designed to protect organs. So what does the bones do? They support our organs, right? They allow us to have some kind of a structure. They protect other organs. When we talk about the nervous system in a moment, our brain is being protected by our skull, right? Bones. Our spinal cord, which is very important, is being protected by our vertebrae, by our backbones, again, protecting those vital organs. Our rib cage, right, protects lungs and other internal organs from damage so that, if you take a hit, you're not completely falling to pieces. Okay. Ligaments. Ligaments are tough, elastic tissues connecting bones together at joints. So ligaments connect bones to bones. All right? There are all kinds of ligaments. And again, I'm not I play sports, that type of thing, but I've never been one of an anatomy person. You hear of pitchers or athletes where they've got various types of ligament damage due to some type of thing. Here I found, obviously, the ligaments of the knee, an LCL, an ACL, an MCL, a PCL. I have no idea what they do or what, but I've heard them, on television. They'll talk about someone with a damaged ACL. Again, that's what they're doing. They're holding all of those things together. All right, what's that? Did somebody say something? Nothing? All right, okay, excellent. We're doing that. Okay, so again, I have no idea. Does anybody know what ACL stands for? I know the L stands for ligament. Anybody ever have an injured ACL? No, you've all been healthy. Well, it can be damaged, right? It's obviously in here, and again, the C must be the same thing. The A and the L must stand for positioning, like anterior or something, but I really don't know. I was just wondering if anybody had ever hurt a knee or whatever and has had a doctor tell them that you've got a torn ACL or something. No? No one? Excellent. That means you're all in good shape and no one's fallen to pieces. That's a good thing. Okay. So, key thing for you guys, ligaments connect bones to bones. They hold the bones together. Okay. Tendons. Tendons are similar to ligaments. They're a little less elastic, and they connect bones to muscles. The Achilles tendon. I hear about that one kind of the most, right? Obviously, that's what's going down the back of your leg. That connects the back of your foot to your calf muscle, and that allows you to move your foot kind of like that. I've heard of people where they've completely torn that tendon in various ways. I knew someone who was just running to second base and pop, it completely tore, and that was the end of that. So they have to sew that all back together and let it do its thing. Yeah, that's the main one that I've heard of. Anybody has tendon issues? No tendon issues in here? Again, you guys are perfect specimens of athletic ability, right? Excellent. Good. Okay. So, tendons connect bones to muscles. Cartilage, dense tissue found in the ear and the nose. All right, so that is an example of cartilage. All right, that's not existing between bones in any way. Right, that's not like keeping your bones sliding in low friction, but they are examples of cartilage. All right, so it's kind of kind of squishy, right, but has some kind of structure to it. If you ever eat chicken wings or eat a chicken leg, at the end of the chicken leg there's that kind of clear, hard piece. You know what I mean? And you get it, you spit it out, that type of thing. That would be the cartilage that was connecting that chicken leg to whatever the other joint was on the end, probably the end of the leg or the end of the foot there of the chicken. Again, special cells, collagen fibers, flexible, low friction support. All right. So some people can have an issue where their cartilage breaks down. They've got weak cartilage. Maybe after an accident for some reason that cartilage is damaged. Very often when older people get artificial knee and hip joints, it's typically due to the fact that the cartilage is been broken down so much that it's really bone on bone, very painful, and so that's typically why that would happen. My wife actually, she has an artificial jaw joint, which is kind of wild, but they can replace that joint as well, and that's because the cartilage on the one side of her mouth, the jaw there, the mandibular joint, it's a mandible. It broke down. They put a jaw joint in there probably about 5 years ago. The issue is, though, now the other side is starting to be affected, and she'll probably need that one replaced as well. But yeah, that's a cartilage issue, all right? So you probably know someone who has had a hip or a knee replaced, and that's probably why they had cartilage issues, okay? All right, click. Muscles. And obviously we have to have muscles in order to get everything to move. Muscles are attached to the skeleton to help it move. Muscles are only designed to contract and then relax. Muscles cannot push, all right? So once you move, you contract a muscle, and then if you want your arm or something to move the other way, another muscle has to contract the other way, all right? So your bicep, right, the muscle here on the top of your arm, when you want to bring your arm up, the biceps contracts. And when you want to move your arm down, what muscle is responsible for moving the arm away, if you push it away? Anybody know? Yep. Yeah, it's the tricep. It's a muscle that's on the back of your arm, and when you push it away, it contracts, and your bicep relaxes. So they have to move kind of in tandem. So all of our movements, every single little movement has a contractor and then something that pushes it back, or not pushes it, but pulls it back the other way, all right? When you're holding your arm out in a position that's in between, both muscles are kind of contracting at the same time, trying to keep everything in balance, all right? And, you know, that takes some control, so your muscles have to work together. When you're young like you guys, and you're again, obviously, perfect physical specimens, because no one has had any damage to anything, except maybe a visual thing, I don't know. Anyway, you can hold your arm nice and still, but you've seen old people, maybe when they're attempting to do something, you see them, and they're shaking, and they're having a hard time, and that's because the nervous system is getting old, the muscular system is getting old, and they're not able to coordinate those both muscles working at the same time in order to complete nice, smooth motion. All right, so you can have kind of that kind of jerky motion. Yep. Yeah, yes you can. Okay. All right, so they contract and relax, that's it. They consist of muscle fibers. When nerve cells send a signal, these proteins cause the muscle to get short. They contract and get thicker. Excellent. All right. Last little thing here I want to talk about. We're getting to the end of this first one, and then we will move on to the next. 3 types of muscles. Skeletal, all right? Voluntary muscles. So whenever we move, whenever we want to speak to someone, et cetera, we're doing that consciously. We don't have to think about it. We do have to think about it. We have to consciously make that effort to make those muscles move, and they tend to be for movement, walking from one place to the other, deciding to go here, deciding to go there. Involuntary muscles, we've seen these already in other organ systems. We've seen them in the esophagus. When you swallow some food, you don't have to think about that esophagus to push the food down into your stomach. It just automatically happens. You don't have to think about your small intestines to keep the food moving through. It just automatically happens. Yep. That's a good question. So that has to do, I guess, with our cartilage in there. I'm not 100% sure. To be honest, I've never actually looked this up in order to find a definite answer. So to be honest, I don't know. I've heard of people saying that there is fluid in there. There's a very slick fluid called synovial fluid, all right, which is kind of like an oil, that keeps everything moving nice and smooth. And I have heard that it's bubbles that have somehow formed in that synovial fluid that are popping or going away or doing something.
Yeah, because I can do it.
Yeah, like forever, like over and over again. To be honest, again, my son, it's his big toe. And whenever he climbs up the stairs, on one foot, snap, 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 snap. It's the craziest thing in the world. I have no idea. Yeah, yeah, and I have it with my thumb sometimes. It's like it sticks and it just cracks, right? It's not even like, doing anything crazy like some people do. Look at everybody's making popping noises. It's exciting. Everybody's doing all their freaky bodily cracking noises at this point. Can you hear it? I can hear it. Anyway, I'm not exactly sure, but that's what I have read. Everyone has now cracked every possible joint that they can do at this point. All right. Let's keep going. Again, smooth, involuntary. We don't have to think about it. Keeps things kind of going in our body. Cardiac muscles. Listen, folks, cardiac muscles, very specialized. They're what our heart is made up of, and they're designed to contract in a certain way, not like a regular muscle, but they contract periodically, very rhythmically, and that, again, obviously keeps our heart going, etc., etc. Again, involuntary. Don't have to think about it to make the heart do its thing. So again, there's our diagram. We'll come back and we'll look at that when we do that for the next one. So that's the end of the first PowerPoint. All right, discard. We're not worried about that. And I believe your sheet just continues on, doesn't it? Does it just continue on with the nervous system? And we will do the same here as well. Okay. And I'm looking to start the PowerPoint. The nervous system, and you ladies are desperately writing because you like writing notes, which is okay. Are you into the nervous system?
Yeah.
Wow, you're flying, and you're into cardiac muscles. All right. Okay. The nervous system. Obviously, the system in our bodies that coordinates all of the actions. All right. It's what allows us to move. It's, even though it's not voluntary, it's what causes the other systems to function properly, like the respiratory system and the digestive system, et cetera, and obviously very important to life. Okay. So again, we're going to label a little picture. It's not that complex. It's really this same picture here. We're not going into the great details of what a nerve is made up of and how the nerve functions. We're not going into those types of details. We're just talking about the main parts and how they function, right? Obviously, the brain, that's the center, the coordination center that's responsible for telling all of the other nerves how to make things happen. The spinal cord, which is part of, again, that central nervous system, that main nervous system, and it contains that great running of, you can think of it as wires running down our spine. And then coming off of those, we have obviously the peripheral nerves, and they go out to our various body parts, to our fingers and our muscles and all the parts of the other systems in order to coordinate everything and make it go. Yep?
What are the random sharp feet that we have?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know whether a nerve can do a misfire. You know what I mean? Whether a nerve without a stimulus can just, all of a sudden send a signal, and you go, what? What the heck's that? You know what I mean? I know what you're talking about. I'm sure we've all experienced it. Or whether it indicates something else. I really don't know. To be honest, I have no idea. That's probably a good question, for me to maybe ask a doctor the next time I encounter them. Maybe a biology teacher like Mr. Edgar, he might know more detail on something like that. But I don't know. I really don't know. Okay, so the nervous system works like a communication network. Again, hopefully you can be filling in all of your blanks or writing the notes. It connects the brain, which controls all body functions, to other parts of the body. Through the nerves consisting of neurons, that's the term we use to describe the nerve cells, all right? So that's how it makes the connections. So if we were to break down the nervous system, two main parts to it. We have the central nervous system, which consists of the brain and the spinal cord, and then we have the peripheral nervous system. They're the ones that are coming off of that spinal cord, which then end up out, again, like I said, at our fingertips, out to all the parts of the body that need that information. Yep.
Well, it's a question.
Yep.
There's
It's okay.
Periodic collagen disorder, like don't know what like what's called.
Yeah. Again, I don't know if you're asking me a question. We are very much outside of the realm of what I have learned in school. All right, we're way out there because I'm a chemist, right? There are all kinds of brain disorders, right? And we might even be able to, have examples of people in our lives that have those brain disorders. And we know that they obviously can affect all kinds of different things. And I guess that goes to show that how complex of a system it is, and how that works. I've never heard of the one that you're speaking of. Is there a name with it, or just something that you've read about it?
Yeah, like I could like they were like people hear like loud bangs.
Yep.
Like almost loud gunshots.
Yep.
And, like,
Well, again, when you actually hear something, right? That nerve that nerve, let's say our eardrum, which is vibrating, right? Like we learned, and then into that cochlea, right? Which then causes that information to go to the brain. Whether the brain is actually getting information from the outside to make it do its thing, or whether it's a malfunction to make it do its thing, it can be the same sensation for whatever that person is doing. You see what I mean? Whether it actually originates from the outside or not, it may be the exact same sensation that the brain is interpreting. So the brain can interpret all kinds of things. Why it's doing it without the stimulus, I guess, is the doctor's question, right? Why is that stimulus, or why is that thing happening in the brain without the stimulus on the outside? What's going on there, I guess, is the question. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yep.
all those exploding head. Oh yeah.
Exploding head syndrome. Without the head actually exploding.
Yeah.
Whoa! It doesn't sound good, but in the brain it wouldn't sound good either. I don't know. I've never heard of that one. There's all kinds of them. Obviously, Parkinson's, right, is one that affects the motor muscles. So you have difficulty controlling those muscles. I've heard of something called, just one second, I've heard of something called synesthesia. Has anybody ever heard of that? What's that? Yeah, it's when one of your senses in your brain has the ability to kind of communicate with your other senses. So sometimes when people see colors, they have taste sensations. So they see colors and they're experiencing flavors at the same time. Some people, when they listen to music, see colors. So the music has color associated with it. All right? What's our music teacher's name? I believe she has indicated to me at one point that is it the hearing and seeing the colors? Yeah. So Mrs. McKay, I guess, has the ability to do that too. I have no idea. It's the brain's different sensors that you know what I mean, that are responsible for those things, tasting or seeing and hearing, and they're communicating with each other. They're sending that stimulus to the other part of the brain, and it allows them to have extra kind of senses. Kind of neat. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I heard of a symptom called like alien hand syndrome or something like
Oh,
that.
yep.
Where it tries through your own hand, you lose control of it, and tries to kill you.
Oh my goodness. Oh, not heard of that one. I know that if you lose a limb, you can have what are called phantom kind of sensations. Like it's still there because the brain is still interpreting information coming from it. Now, myself personally, I lost my foot when I was 4. I don't recall having such sensations, and I don't have them now. I don't recall ever having an issue with that. But I know it's quite prominent with hands, right? Because the brain desperately wants that to be there. With me, I put on my leg, my brain isn't, getting any other information, and it was so long ago, I don't ever have it. So the brain is quite a thing. All right, let's go through this. Let's keep rolling. Okay, central nervous system. So again, please continue to fill in your blanks. central nervous system consists of the brain and the spinal cord. Makes good sense. That's the main part. The brain is protected by cerebrospinal fluid. Awesome. There's a little bit of liquid between your brain and your skull. There's also that same liquid between your spinal cord and your vertebrae. When you get a concussion, all right, let's say you get hit and your head turns quickly sideways or it stops quickly. What happens is the brain keeps on moving, just like a person in a car without a seatbelt. The brain keeps on moving, it pushes that fluid out of the way, it bumps up against the side of the skull, and you got a bruise on your brain, and you have a concussion, all right? So those nerves don't function properly, and therefore you're sensitive to light, or you're irritable, or all of those things that go along with a concussion, all right? So that fluid there is to protect, but if you get hit hard enough, you can still have a problem. Yep?
Some of the spine being repaired.
Yep.
But like if you like get hit hard enough, like people can be paralyzed. But
Yep.
maybe why can't that be repaired?
That's a good question. And it has to do with, I think, again, I'm out of my league here, but I think it has to do with the fact that the nerves are not the type of cells that reproduce, right? And I don't know why. So when you have a nerve that's cut or broke, it's not like new cells come and take the place of those old ones, and therefore that is never repaired. We talked about stem cells, right? Cells that don't have a job yet, and they've talked about injecting some stem cells into that space, and maybe they'll learn to be nerve cells, and then we'll repair that connection. And so work is being done on that, but I don't know why nerve cells don't repair themselves like that. Right? I don't know why. We've just learned in the previous unit that cells divide to repair themselves. Why wouldn't nerve cells do that? I don't know. I don't know. Hand up, you've had it longer. What do you got?
Yeah, like I cut my finger like last year.
Yep. Yep. It's just a weird, dull feeling. Yeah, that I have on my stump. On the bottom of my foot, I can feel some things, but it's an odd feeling.
I can feel that like something's on it, but I can't.
Yep. Yeah. When I was younger and living at home, and I mean like in elementary school, I would walk around without my leg on more than I do now because I wasn't as big. You know what I mean? Now it causes me a little discomfort. I remember when I was growing up, I was walking around the house without my leg on, bare feet, and I was coming out of the living room into the kitchen onto the linoleum floor. And as I was walking along, I was hearing this kind of a tacking noise, something hitting the floor, and I took a look on the bottom of my stump, and I had stepped in a thumbtack and didn't know it. And so I have the similar thing. Those nerves were damaged, and therefore I don't have that sensation. Yep.
What if you like cut yourself and then like cauterize it by burning it? Would you be able to grow that back?
You mean nerve tissue?
Like just a normal cut. Like wouldn't the cells be dead if you burn them?
So you're talking about cauterizing a wound, and how does that work? Or
do the cells still regrow, or are they dead?
That's a good question. I would think that they're dead, but I think what it does is it seals it so that it stops blood flow. How does it seal it? By like forcing carbonated cell, you know what I mean? Things that you've burnt to form like an artificial clot almost. But then you would have then cell regeneration, which would then take the damaged tissue away and then rebuild it. So I would that has more to do with maybe our circulatory system, right? But I think cauterizing a blood vessel is simply to seal it up with carbon, right? Because the cells are made of carbon essentially, right? And so if you burn the heck out of it with something hot or maybe with a laser, you just burn all those cells on the end and it just kind of gums everything up. It becomes like a plug of carbon. White blood cells would eventually come and take that carbon away and replace it. New cells would grow, right? In terms of the nervous system, again, for some reason, those nerves don't replenish themselves. Okay, I like it. cerebrospinal fluid. That's the word of the day. That's awesome. Cerebrospinal. Again, cerebro, what do they mean by that? What part of the body are they talking about when they're talking about the cerebrum or the cerebro? What is that? No, that's the brain, right? That's the brain. But then the spinal is the spine. So what they found is this fluid is common in the brain, surrounding the brain and surrounding the spine, and it's all kind of one system of fluid that protects all that stuff. And the cerebrospinal fluid and the vertebrae protect the spine, and the brain is protected again by the cerebrospinal fluid and the skull. All right, our skull is what does that. The brain receives information from all sensory organs: taste, smell, touch, hearing, vision, and form a response if necessary. It also contains sensors for conscious thought and memory, and so that's what allows us to make decisions and also to remember things. It allows us to interpret information and make decisions. Okay? And again, we're filling in blanks so that you guys have the note. We're good to go. The spinal cord extends down the brain, down the back. It transforms, it transfers information to and from the brain. The spinal cord is also responsible for what we call reflex actions, and those reflex actions don't require you to think. So if you go to the doctor and he's going to test your reflexes, he does that little tap on your knee and your knee kicks out there, right? Those types of responses do not need the brain. Why do we have such responses in our bodies? Some for protection, like if you were to put your hand on a hot stovetop or maybe grab a hot pan, you actually would pull back without your brain receiving that information. If it's hot enough, that information goes straight from that sensory organ to the muscular organ to then pull that back and cause that. So we have reflex actions more for protection of our systems, kind of built into our system, that if something is terrible going to happen, we pull that away. So they can happen without conscious thought. Okay. The peripheral nervous system consists of the nerves extending beyond the brain and the spinal cord, so they run along there. They relay information about the external environment to the brain and carries messages back from the brain to other organs. All right? So the peripheral nervous system, all those nerves that run down our arms and our legs, and then in the end, they result in our sensory organs, where our sensory information comes in. We've got touch sensors, we've got temperature sensors on our skin. Obviously, our eyes are for light sensors. Our ears take in sound sensors. Tongue, we obviously can taste various chemicals. It's interesting when it comes to the temperature sensors. The temperature sensors on our skin actually only consist of two types. There's one that senses cold or cool, and there's one that senses warm. And there isn't one that senses hot. All right? If we're grabbing or we're touching something that's considered hot, both the cool and the warm sensors are activated, and our brain senses hot. So our brain's interpretation of something that is hot is actually two sensors happening at the same time, one that's cold and one that's warm. And you may have noticed this before. If you've ever been outside playing and you've allowed your hands or your legs to get really cool or really cold, and then you figure you're going to warm them up, maybe with a warm shower or getting into a warm bathtub, and what does it feel like? It hurts because it feels like they're on fire. Now that's interesting. You're interpreting it as a freezing sensation. I've always interpreted it as super hot, and that's because your skin is still cold, right? So the cold sensor is activated. You then put your hand or your legs under some warm water. The cold skin is activating the cold sensor. The warm water is activating the warm sensor, and your brain thinks super hot, which I can see maybe being like you feel it as being super freezing cold, but I've always interpreted it as being hot. How many people have ever had that before? You stick your hand in some warm water, it's like, what the holy cow? And you know it's not warm, or sorry, it's not hot, yet your body is screaming and telling your brain that this is not a good situation to be in. Yep. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, no, that again, it's whatever you're interpreting. It's whatever your brain does that. I've always experienced when I've had cold fingers or cold toes, and you put it in some warm water. Whoa, you get that sensation of super hot, and that's the reason why. Okay, let's get through this. We're almost done. Peripheral nerves contain 3 types: nerves that control voluntary muscles. We've talked about that. Voluntary nerves that carry information to and from specialized neuron are sensory receptors. We just talked about that. Touch, taste, hear, etc., etc. And nerves that regulate involuntary functions, digestion, breathing, heartbeat. Those nerves are doing things, they're sensing things. We don't know it, and we don't really care that much. The body's just doing its thing. When it malfunctions, we care. When it's functioning, we're not that concerned. Okay. And again, there is the diagram that we did. That's the end of the PowerPoint there. So hopefully you were able to gather up all of your fill in the blanks again. And I'm going to bring up this guy. So now what we can do at this point is please open the diagram file, and we can now fill in our diagrams, however you want to do that, whether you're using the pens. That seems to be what we've been doing here. But you can now fill in your diagrams, and again, not too complex. I'm not going to fill it in because the smartboard doesn't like it when I do this. What's that? Oh, we're going to shift it all the way past. What's that top one on that guy's head? The brain. You guys can fill that in. The brain. And what's that second one?
I can't fill it in.
No, you can't. That's right. It's the spinal cord. If you were writing on the thing, you could fill it in. But the picture's on the PowerPoint. Spinal cord, and what do we call these other nerves hanging off the side? Peripheral nerves. Peripheral nerves. All right? Peripheral nerves. And sliding down to the next one. And again, like I said, I didn't want it to be super complex. Actually, you know what? There's still one missing on here. I'm still going to get you to add one more line. Where do I need a line? What part of that picture needs a line in order to complete it with all the organs of the musculoskeletal system? No, I've got, oh, you're right. I need 2 lines. I need 2 lines. I need a line here. Oh, you, okay. I need a line here. Come on, work with me. Not gonna let me. I need a line there, and I need a line there. A line there and there. Top one, now that I've added a line, what is that? Muscle. Muscle, correct. Muscle. Next one. In general, I don't need the name of it. Bone. Bone. To be honest, I get this one wrong because I get it mixed up with this. What connects bone, or what connects muscle to bone? Is it a tendon? Is it a tendon? Tendon. I'm not worried about the kneecap. It is a patella. What's this one here? In between the bones. Cartilage. And down here we've got bone again. This thing here, connecting bone to bone. Ligament. Ligament. Okay? All right. So, and